sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that we'll spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why he said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit, then we'll get a little more, and, whatever. So that was part of it.
Acknowledge Jake has had double jaw surgery, 4 plates, 8 screws in his face, and everybody is just kind of breezing past that like it's no big deal. But I'm looking further into this because that's no easy surgery, and I'm starting to ask the question, is this the beginning of the end of Jake Paul's boxing career?
As his brother, I was just shocked. I'm in the hospital with the guy, and he's like, yo, can you make this TikTok? Can you film this for me? He's like laughing and having a good time.
Doesn't have any agenda against Anthony Joshua, because it feels to me like that fight, before the fight, I was refusing to.
The boxing world exploded after Anthony Joshua's brutal performance against Jake Paul, with some critics going as far as saying AJ should be arrested for the damage he caused. Experts were furious, pointing to the severe injuries Paul suffered, including multiple jaw fractures that required surgery and metal screws. Many condemned the matchup, arguing Joshua's raw power and aggression crossed the line of what was safe. Fans and professionals alike were left stunned by the level of punishment, igniting heated debates about fighter safety and the responsibility of matchmaking in high-profile events.
Away from the power, you could call it running, and you'll be right. You can also say it's smart for a guy Jake's size and understanding that AJ is a fucking monster. It's also smart to fight that way. It's not the
Analysts Brian Campbell and Shaka Majwi broke down Jake Paul's fight with Anthony Joshua, focusing on both strategy and the physical toll. They highlighted how Joshua's power inflicted serious damage, ultimately forcing Paul into jaw surgery. To survive, Jake relied heavily on movement, circling the ring, staying mobile, and avoiding prolonged exchanges near the ropes. While the approach lacked aggression, it allowed him to last longer than most expected against a heavyweight of Joshua's caliber. Campbell and Majwi noted that Paul's defensive planning preserved his stamina and limited some damage, but Joshua's overwhelming strength still left visible injuries, underscoring the danger of mismatched elite bouts.
Be the end for him in terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring.
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model. Right now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a 2-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul, and we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva and Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age, to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so, because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there, there's the Tommy Fury rematch.
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping reacted strongly to Jake Paul's crushing defeat, calling it a masterclass in professional boxing by Anthony Joshua. He emphasized how completely outmatched Paul was, praising Joshua's precision, combinations, and devastating uppercuts that left Jake with no room to escape. Bisping explained that the broken jaw and sustained punishment were the inevitable result of facing a bigger, stronger, and far more experienced elite heavyweight. He added that Paul's confidence and promotional hype couldn't prepare him for the technical and physical realities of top-level boxing. The fight, Bisping concluded, exposed the massive gap between elite professionals and celebrity crossover fighters.
A big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? A lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing, it's not MMA as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, a glancing right hook, he goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live, there was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last. Can he?
Despite the brutality of the fight, both Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul reportedly earned around $92 million each, making it one of the highest-paying bouts in boxing history streamed worldwide on Netflix. However, Joshua's payday took a massive hit due to taxation. As a UK resident fighting in the United States, AJ faced both US federal taxes and UK international tax obligations, potentially losing up to $66 million. In contrast, Jake Paul, based in the US, avoided the additional UK tax burden, allowing him to keep a larger share of his earnings despite the loss. The situation highlighted how reported purses can be wildly different from actual take-home pay.
Has to pay, as you see here, a whopping $43 million. $43 million of his $92 million purse. That means Anthony Joshua was left with $49 million. Right? Now, he also has to pay, I believe, 10% of that to his promoter, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie.
Dominic Engel delivered a brutally honest assessment of Jake Paul's performance, explaining that Jake's primary goal was survival rather than engagement. By constantly moving, Paul made it difficult for Joshua to trap him and unload combinations. Engel noted that although Paul absorbed a heavy right hand, he showed toughness by staying composed. He added that Joshua never needed to push at full intensity, especially in an 8-round bout against a less experienced opponent. Engel compared the performance to elite fighters like Tyson Fury, noting that boxers often fight down to the level of their opposition. When Joshua landed clean, Paul felt it, but the bout remained controlled.
He's not the best at closing people off, and it's hard chasing somebody down who don't want to engage, and then he tagged him every now and again. So
does it look bad on him because the one right hook that he took was a serious shot? Obviously he didn't flinch from it, but the fact that
not really, because you'll take into consideration that you can get. There won't be there'll be no way. Well, Anthony Joshua thought, if he hits me, there's a possibility he's going to hurt me. And I felt a couple of shots early on in the fight. There's no way Jake Paul at the level he's at, and who he's boxed and what he's done, that he's, and it's like AJ, like you say, he's got to have completely gone and be punch drunk for Jake Paul to beat him after the last fight against the Boer. People think, oh, his jaw's gone there, he can't take a shot. Of course he can take a shot, and it's weighing up the opposition, and he weighed up the opposition, and he's not going to be training like he trained for Usyk or for the big fights. He won't do it because they can't get motivated enough to do it. They'll do enough to do the round. What was it, an 8-rounder? Yeah. So same again. So he did enough. He never looked in any trouble. It didn't look great, but Tyson Fury didn't look great against Ngannou, did he? But who did he box after Ngannou? Exactly. But you would have never thought, looking at the performance against Ngannou with Tyson, you would never have thought that he put in the performance he did against Usyk.
So you think it's more of a case of you kind of, no matter how good you are and how much you train, the opposition isn't great, you sometimes
you're going to box at the level of the opponent because the opponent makes you fight at that level.
It's quite a fair.
So, but when AJ...
Analysts stressed that simply surviving against a fighter of Joshua's level required courage and resilience, while also serving as a reminder that hype alone cannot prepare someone for elite competition. Emotions boiled over after the fight when Jake Paul's mother shocked fans by publicly threatening Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn. She criticized Hearn for sitting calmly while Jake absorbed punishment and accused both men of failing to stop the fight sooner. While many viewed her reaction as extreme, others found it understandable given the physical danger her son endured.
Yeah.
Why? Why Eddie
Because I
Hearn?
don't like his smug face.
You don't like his smug face?
No.
Morning,
Literally
I
thinks he's
swear,
better
I
than
said
everybody
Eddie
in the
Hearn's
world.
shit-eating grin. I said the exact... Bro,
Jake's over there, like, struggling, and he's sitting over there smiling like the cat who swallowed the canary. Guess what? Did he fucking get in the ring?
Do
No,
you think he was happy with what happened to Jake?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God.
Now, this is coming from a mother, too, guys. So I just want y'all to understand. This is a mom. But at the end of the day, it's his job to laugh. Because, hell, I was laughing at Jake Paul. I can't even lie. I'm not a big Jake Paul fan. But, part of the process. We got to report on this. But Mama Paul, hella mad.
God, and that's sickening to me. It's sick. I don't like it. Even Anthony Joshua had some class and, apologized to me.
Did he really?
Yeah. He worked his way through the crowd and came up.
After the final bell, attention shifted to Logan Paul, who appeared to confront and intimidate Anthony Joshua outside the ring. At the same time, Jake Paul was shown in the hospital, visibly battered and recovering from the fight that left his jaw fractured. The contrast between Logan's confidence and Jake's vulnerable condition highlighted the harsh reality of facing an elite heavyweight. While Logan's actions drew headlines, fans agreed the real story was the physical toll the fight took on Jake.
Logan Paul would be more of a mismatch than Jake Paul. You know what I mean? Because at least Jake Paul has taken boxing or has trained with real boxing trainers and real boxers. Whereas Logan Paul, he did that exhibition with Floyd, and Floyd's a little guy. Not saying a little guy can't thump, because Floyd really gave him some two pieces with no sides, right? But at the same time, you take his friend, Floyd's friend, Anthony Joshua, and get hit by him and see what happens. The same thing. Probably worse, because I think Logan, he's a little taller than Jake. And because he's a little taller than Jake, he may think he's a little stronger than Jake. Which, I don't know which one's true or not. I don't think it makes a difference. But because he may feel that way, he may want to go in there and try to bang it out with AJ. And if that happens, it's going to be a lot quicker. See, that 6 rounds it took AJ to finally catch Jake. It took that way because Jake was on that bicycle, moving, being elusive, trying to come in and then come out. He tried to do a very poor man's Alexander Usyk, right? And it didn't work for him. Logan ain't gonna do that. Logan's gonna come in throwing punches and bunches like he did with Floyd, trying to get him in there and, do all this stuff. And what's gonna happen as soon as AJ lines him up, sets his punch, he's gonna hit Jake and he's gonna break Jake down, and he may break his jaw or a face or over the bonus.
Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi offered a blunt assessment of the fight, emphasizing just how devastating the outcome was for Jake Paul. They revealed that Paul suffered a jaw broken in 2 places and lost teeth, highlighting the extreme danger of facing a world-class heavyweight. Both analysts pointed to Joshua's power and precision as overwhelming, exposing clear defensive flaws. They concluded that the fight was a stark warning about the risks of stepping into elite competition unprepared.
Ngannou's he's got balls. Ngannou's got balls, man. He went out there and he tried to fight, tried to win.
Jake Paul didn't try to win at any point during the fight. He was just trying to survive. I think that's actually ultimately going to hurt him with boxing fans.
What do you think, Paulie? I mean, you talked about the in and out kind of style, kind of hits and runs, and you said that A, it runs out your legs. He was exhausted a couple rounds into the fight, and B, it only saved him for so long.
He doesn't have the boxing skills to box on the move anyway. Once I saw the big ring, I knew he was going to run for his life. When you're that much of a novice, which obviously it's not even an insult to him, it's just lack of experience, but when you're that much of a novice, you either know how to run for your life or fight all out. You don't have that in between yet. You haven't developed enough of that in between boxing acumen to really pull that off. And so what ends up happening? You're either going to fight your ass off and you'll last a minute. Chris, you're being generous. Round 2, he would have got knocked down round 1 if he would have fought. But at least he would have fought. He would have gotten the respect of the people and more importantly, the boxing community instead of these clowns that follow him and are still defending him. Now what happens is you didn't get any respect as a fighter. You didn't get any respect as a fighter because you didn't try to fight at all. If he would have, I was watching that through 2-3 rounds. I'm thinking to myself, this guy would do this for 8 rounds if he can. If he can do this for 8 rounds, absolutely not fight at all, absolutely not engage a single time in 8 rounds, he will actually do this. And he'll do it shamelessly. And that's the problem. That's the problem. The shamelessness of his approach to the fight. You're gonna be a fighter, then don't make an ass out of the whole sport, out of the whole business, and out of yourself first and foremost. Because in the end, what happens? You got his jaw broke anyway. So what ends up happening? What's the worst that's gonna happen? You're gonna get hurt, you're gonna get knocked out? You got hurt and you got knocked out anyway, but you just prolonged the inevitable and you got no respect out of it now. Because nobody's respecting that kind of performance. Nobody's respecting a performance where you would totally content to steal money from everyone by running for your life for 8 rounds, and if you could have not engaged a single time in 8.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned for more. Until next time.